Welcome to another movie plot and enjoy the memories. It begins on the New Jersey boardwalk with a rather well-dressed homeless man enjoying his morning. Three demonic minions called the Stygian triplets roll up disguised as strung-out teenagers and bludgeon the old-timer into a coma. Nearby, the demon Azrael has escaped from the underworld, needing a base of operations, so he murders a random woman for her central heating. He then orders his psychotic little servants to get back out onto the streets and kill one of God's assassins called the Last Scion. Meanwhile, Cardinal Glick speaks out front of St. Michael's Church about their fading popularity and how depressing it is to always look at a crucifixion. To combat this, Jesus has been rebranded into the uplifting Buddy Christ, which the Cardinal plans to gradually roll out across the country. More importantly, St. Michael's has an upcoming rededication ceremony where anybody who walks through its doors afterwards will have all of their sins forgiven. This is brought to the attention of the fallen angel Bartleby, who was banished from heaven to serve an eternity here in a place worse than hell. He convinced the angel Loki to quit his job, and now the two hang around an airport trying to find a way to return home. After convincing a nun that God doesn't exist, Loki's told about the loophole of receiving a morally good slate by entering St. Michael's. Azrael sent them a newspaper clipping about the dogmatic law to satisfy his own agenda, but they just see this as a way to get back in God's good graces. Loki wants to resume his former position as the Angel of Death by killing the corrupted board members of a fast food franchise called Movies. The angel who once rained down sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah and sent the floods that wiped out Earth, is now reduced to a gun which he uses on their bus journey to Jersey when he shoots a sinner for cheating on his wife. Elsewhere, the Last Scion Bethany is having a crisis of faith after a disease destroyed her uterus and her husband left her. If that's not enough backstory, she also terminates pregnancies for a living and gets harassed by picketing pro-lifers on her way to work. Turning down her co-workers' offer to go out tonight and choosing to remain home instead, Bethany's visited by the voice of God, who she puts out with an extinguisher before he burns down the apartment. Metatron's a little pissed and turns her bat into a fish before proving he's an angel by revealing his lack of any endowment. He tells the Last Scion about the angel's plan to get back into heaven and produces wings, which would have been better to do before stripping. Bethany is given a divine crusade to defeat Bartleby and Loki, because if they prove that God can make a mistake, it'll unmake the world. He tells her that she'll have support from two prophets, then maracas her back into bed, where it takes a moment to realize she wasn't just dreaming. Preparing to drive to New Jersey, Beth's suddenly attacked by the triplets and their stupid weapon of choice. But as they're about to give her the same treatment as the homeless man, the prophets show up and beat the crap out of some kids. Her saviors are the small-time dealers Jay and Silent Bob, who only hang around the clinic to meet loose women and expect Beth to put out. She realizes that they must be the prophets, so takes them to a local diner to explain the situation and how important they really are. Jay's straight up ready to punch her in the face when thinking Beth's some kind of Jesus fanatic, but she offers to pay them for their help. Only Jay speaks, hence the name Silent Bob, and says that they came to Illinois in hopes of dealing to all the sober kids from John Hughes's films. So upon realizing that it's fictional, the prophets agree to accompany Beth back to their hometown of Jersey anyway. They don't get far in Beth's car because Jay's allowed to drive and doesn't know how to change gears, so he was just flooring it in first. Stranded on the side of the road, they spend the night trying to hail drivers, and by morning Bethany's fed up enough to just walk home. Jay claims that men like them don't just fall out of the sky when a mysterious man in his birthday suit does just that. It doesn't work when asking for a lady, so the stranger introduces himself as the 13th Apostle Long Rufus, but it's a little cold out at the moment. He was left out of the Bible by the writers for being black like Jesus, who was too important to the story, so they just whitewashed him instead. In helping them, he wants to ensure that he's finally referenced in the Bible and tries not to get any knob juice on the inside of Bob's coat. They're followed on their journey by the triplets, who travel through rifts in space to report back to Azrael that they failed to kill Bethany. Learning that she's now got protection, he summons hell's best assassin Golgothan, which is a result of crucified people pooping. Beth and Rufus follow Jay and Bob into a strip club where Jay's trying to prove to his hetero life mate that he isn't gay. This comes off the back of Rufus revealing that Jay's occasionally thinking about men while jerking his chicken, but if any woman can turn him on, it's this one. The apostle recognizes the dancer as a muse named Serendipity, who becomes the center of a cash duel between Bob and the very angry Cain. Bob turns out to be loaded, so the group sit down with the muse, who like an angel lacks any definition between the legs, but the chest is all real. She claims to have inspired 19 out of the 20 top highest grossing movies of all time, but that somebody must have sold their soul to Satan for Home Alone. They have a discussion about how God is a woman but was changed by the penholders when suddenly the turd demon emerges from the bathroom. Jay hypes up the local thugs who he just befriended to defend their turf, but they all just get smeared around the bar. Hoopy Boy fires floaters from his hands while the Last Scion takes cover behind the bar with the rest of her squad. In a last-ditch effort, Bob steps out and stares down the walking pile of crap with his bottle of deodorant that knocks out 99% of bad odors. Luckily this one doesn't fall under the 1%, so Serendipity stays behind to question the excrement while the group continue with their quest. Meanwhile, the angels finally reach the movie's building and interrupt a meeting with a list of all the executive sins. As Bartleby recites them for everybody to hear, Loki carves a little voodoo doll of the president, but it's all just for show. He prevents security from being contacted, and every executive who's committed a fatal sin is shot dead, leaving only one innocent person. Loki still almost kills her anyway for not saying bless you when he sneezes, but Bartleby tells him to quit wasting time. Since they just missed the last bus to Jersey, Loki suggests they pop their wings out and fly there, but Azrael's come to warn them against it. He tells the angels to keep a low profile because the last Scion is hunting them, but not that entering the church will unmake existence. Heeding his warnings, they catch a train instead, but find themselves sitting down with the prophets, assuming that they're simply regular stoners. During the trip, Bethany becomes friends with Bartleby over a discussion on why they lost their faith, as even the angel feels like God ignored him. They get drunk and Bethany thinks that for whatever reason it's a good idea to tell the guy she just met about her pilgrimage to defeat two angels. Bartleby stays composed right up until Rufus walks in and recognizes him, so the gig's up and he takes Beth hostage. Luckily, Loki punches Jay, setting off his silent muscle, who has the unexplained ability to throw angels off moving trains.
No ticket.
Overhearing Rufus talk about the consequences of them returning to heaven, Loki wants out, but Bartleby's gone completely off the deep end. He's angry that God would show Beth so much patience while angels like him are cast out for a single defiance. Loki remarks that he's sounding like Lucifer, which offends Bartleby but doesn't stop him from destroying the universe trying to get home. That night while camping, Rufus reveals that Beth's the last living blood relative of Jesus, which also means that she's part black. With this overwhelming news, she runs off face first into the river to begin calling out to God, so Metatron comes down from heaven. He tells her that Christ took the news about being the Son of God quite dramatically as well, but if he can come to terms with it, then so can she. Metatron teleports them to a restaurant in New Jersey and says that God's gone missing on one of her regular visits to Earth to play skee-ball. They have no idea how to stop the angels when Jay suggests that they go ask Cardinal Glick to just render the loophole useless by canceling the ceremony. The last Scion is motivated to continue her pilgrimage, but unfortunately the Cardinal doesn't budge as he thinks their story's crazy. Rufus pulls out the biblical threats, but Glick's used them all before and assures us that the reopening will take place as scheduled. On their way out, Bob steals one of the Cardinal's golf clubs, and while trying to come up with a plan at a bar, Azrael returns with Serendipity soon after. He rounds them up to buy the angels time as Bartleby and Loki arrive at the church, shouting that all the charlatans are about to taste God's wrath. He begins to slaughter everybody who doesn't run away while forcing Loki to join him whether he wants to or not. It's now when Azrael reveals that his whole plan is to destroy the universe because he'd rather not exist than have to ever go back to hell. He turns on the TV to show the massacre at St. Michael's when the muse signals to Bob that he should use the golf club on Azrael. Assuming that he's immune, the demon lets Bob take his best shot, but it caves in his chest, killing Azrael while the rest overpower his minions. The triplets get destroyed in holy water that Beth creates, and Serendipity explains that the club worked because it was blessed by the Cardinal for a better game. The Scooby Gang race down to St. Michael's, where they find the site of a fresh massacre as Bartleby flies around dropping pedestrians from the sky. Loki shows up, so Beth confronts him, but he's so remorseful that he's cut off his wings so that he could become human and get drunk. He apologizes when Bartleby descends, having simply been waiting to kill the group before entering the church. The drunk Loki rushes to the group's defense, so a disappointed Bart kills the Angel of Death for growing a conscience. The whole group then rushes him, apart from Jay, who tries to hook up with Beth since they're all about to become like that comatose skee-ball player anyway. Hearing this, Beth realizes that God must be trapped inside the triplets' first victim, so she goes to the hospital to check it out. She unplugs his life support, releasing God from the body, knocking back Bethany and inadvertently killing her. The same time, Jay decides to use the Uzi on Bartleby, but just ends up blowing off his wings and turning him into a human. He runs to the front doors for forgiveness, only for God and Metatron to exit like disappointed parents catching their child sneaking back in. Forgiving his betrayal and demonstrating why she needs a translator, God destroys Bartleby, which is what would have happened had he crossed the threshold anyway. She then cleans herself off and kisses Jay to make him stop talking before instantly cleaning up the entire street and presumably resurrecting the dead. Bob comes walking up with Beth's dead body in his arms, but there's no reason God can't just Mr. Miyagi away the death and restore her lovely sweater. The Almighty then goes frolicking around while Meta reveals to Beth that she's pregnant, as God even restored her uterus. When trying to thank her and asking why humans are really on Earth, Beth just receives a boop from the Creator as everyone begins to depart. Metatron, Serendipity, and Rufus all say their goodbyes before entering the building and returning to heaven with God. Jay wakes up to hear what he missed from Bob before the final scene shows him going straight back to hitting on the pregnant Scion. And the movie ends.
Whose house?
Run's house. I said, whose house? Run's house.